Today, millions of people around the world live in abject poverty. The gap between rich and poor is extreme.
Poverty levels have increased in sub-Saharan Africa over the last years. There are about 100 million more people in Africa living on less than $1 a day in 2000 than there were in 1990. At the same time, poverty levels have not declined in Latin America or in the Middle East, whereas in Asia, while the absolute poverty percentages have declined, primarily due to the activities in China and India, the number of people living on less than $1 a day has actually increased.
Many people have been looking for solutions. But it was Nobel Prize winner Muhammad Yunus who came up with the idea of creating a credit bank for the poor. And so, microfinance was born.
The answer to poverty did not come from an Ivy League college or a Washington think tank. It came from Bangladesh. In 1976, Muhammad Yunus, a young economics professor, encountered a group of women who appeared to be running profitable cottage industries.
We did something wrong and poverty is created. So let's do something right so that poverty disappears.
Professor Yunus, who was one of the pioneers of microfinance along with Axion and Finca and others, he was a professor trained at Vanderbilt University teaching macroeconomic modeling. And you realize what he was talking about inside his classroom had very little to do with the outside reality of tens of thousands of people dying. So people like him, and there were others too, were trying to figure out what is it that we can do at a non-governmental level to address these issues.
Axion is a nonprofit organization that for the past 30 years has worked only in microfinance. It started making loans in 1973 in Brazil, in Recife. And from that point to today, it has sought to create microfinance banks, first in Latin America and then throughout the world. So what it has done is create a network of banks, most of them regulated, licensed. And right now they all reach about 2.5 million clients, and they have almost $2 billion out in the street in loans that start about $100. So Axion's work is to expand microfinance to as many people as possible.
Trickle Up's mission is to help people take the first steps out of poverty. We give them training in the basics of business, small seed capital grant, and we help them start a small family business. And in doing so, every year we help 10,000 businesses get started and 10,000 people take a very important step out of extreme poverty, deep levels of poverty, people living on $1 a day or less, people in Africa, people in Asia, people in Latin America, and it works.
PromoHair has a very, very interesting methodology. Our methodology is designed around large groups of women who meet weekly to receive a loan. We selected a methodology called Village Banking because we saw in it the potential to provide ongoing education to the women we work with. The women are poor, they want to start small businesses, so they come to PromoHair to receive a small loan to invest in their business.
The poor have always been natural entrepreneurs. Their survival depends on it. In traditional societies, lending has been directed primarily to men. As microfinance is about equal access to credit, it has focused on lending to women.
Women are at the bottom of the pyramid in societies. They have the least resources. Women are also the ones that still take care of the children and take care of the household. So being able to work in a job that allows them to combine taking care of their children while they're selling vegetables in the market or they're sewing something in their home means that they start microenterprises, and that for them, that becomes one very important source of income.
We find that women make outstanding business people. Very often it's their first chance to come into the commercial marketplace, to go beyond how they spent their days of taking care of the family and taking care of the home. They have a natural instinct for business, they're good at it, and it's a way to increase a family's income if both the man and the woman are working.
Funds that are given to women generally have a better economic impact and more of a social impact, strengthening families, getting children better education, improving the health care for their families. So funds that go to women have a greater multiplier effect or greater leverage frequently than funds that go to men.
Not only do you have poverty, you've got an extremely strong patriarchy. And in Bangladesh, which is a traditional Islamic society, that meant 2 decades ago, when microfinance kind of was starting out, it meant that women couldn't go out of the house. So one aspect of why microfinance was directed at women was to be able to see, along with addressing issues of poverty, could we also address issues of patriarchy through empowering women, through providing them with access to a resource that they never historically ever had, the financial resources.
There are a variety of different pieces of poverty. The one that people usually think about is absence of financial resources or absence of access to food, water, shelter, or medicine. But there are other aspects of poverty that in the United Nations family we think are very important, and these have to do with human development as a whole. Access to information, the right to participate in society, the ability to go to school, all of these things can be important social aspects that influence poverty without necessarily being directly related to the income of a particular family.
Well, I think we're very badly organized. I think the world is way out of whack. I think the distribution of wealth that is more and more in the hands of fewer and fewer people is something that's happening at our own peril. And that if we want a stable world and so stable societies, we're going to have to invest in all the people in the world. As long as there are people who have nothing to lose and are not part of the global economy and the global wealth, then I think that we're all in danger.
Many people that are very poor live in very difficult and remote geographical locations. Frequently, they don't have access to roads, they may not have access to clean water, they may be subject to disease of a variety of types, and people who have grown up in these situations for a very long time often have a lot of difficulty making their way out of their circumstances. On the other hand, globalization, I think, has also been a contributor to poverty. Although many people have been drawn out of poverty as a result of globalization, there are many people who have been left out.
We do a lot of work in India, and on the one hand, we read about India and the enormous prosperity there and the IT industry that's booming, and every day we pick up the phone and talk to a customer service or a technical support person in India. There's also over 300 million people in India living in abject poverty, the entire population of the United States.
There are many players that have to be in place, and when the issue is addressed at the level of a Clinton Global Initiative, in the hallways of red carpet Hollywood celebrity events, we're beginning to see that this topic is one that we should assume the responsibility for seeking to address it, and there are means to do it.